But right now, where data and digital operations are integrated to every key function of the company, it's imperative that our CEOs and our board members are adept at being able to set direction and intention. Something as simple as saying, we're committed to data privacy and we're committed to a secure environment for the data we're entrusted with.
You're listening to Working Forward, a Future of Work focused podcast from People Forward Network. These episodes pave the road ahead, helping us confidently step into the future as a leader who moves people forward. Let's go.
I'm Lori Shakur, and this is Putting the Human Back in Human Resources. We're diving deep into the world of HR and leadership, exploring pivotal elements that shape workplace dynamics while unraveling the impact of positive leadership and sharing the significance of creating healthy workplaces where people can truly thrive. I'm glad you're here. Let's get started. AI, artificial intelligence. Ugh. I don't know about you, but I'm still getting comfortable with all of the automation. I feel empowered, but I also feel nervous. I feel smarter, but then I also feel very vulnerable. We all have a lot to learn about our responsibility with this new technology. I had an opportunity to recently check in with my new friend, Dominique, Shelton, Leipzig. Dominique is absolutely amazing. She's a Mayer Brown privacy and cybersecurity partner. She leads its global data innovation team, and she's counseled CEOs and board members on how to seize technological opportunities by establishing smart governance. Through her practice, she's trained over 50,000 professionals, including Fortune 100 leaders, in AI, privacy, and cyber preparedness. For 30 years, Dominique has used her command of legal trends to accurately forecast digital risks and best practices. Her insights have allowed companies with a collective market cap of over $3 trillion. You heard me right. T as in Tom, trillion, to optimize innovation through responsible data stewardship. We recently caught up on her fourth book, Trust. In this book, Dominique delves into the incredible value of data, as well as the sacred responsibilities to protect it. I believe we've got the definitive playbook on digital, AI, data privacy, and how to value data as an asset in her book. She gives us everything we need so that we can be responsible with global legislation, understand liabilities, and most importantly, be compliant for multinational companies. If writing books and leading a major practice isn't enough, Dominique is also the co-founder of Next Work, a nonprofit dedicated to diversifying the C-suite and boardroom. Let's listen in to what Dominique has to share today about AI. Dominique, woo, am I happy to have you here. Can I just say I'm thrilled to talk about your fourth book? Yes, your fourth book. Dominique, I'd like to jump right in and ask, what inspired you to write this book? Why this book? Why now?
It just occurred to me, Lori, that there was so much confusion out in our business community with our CEOs, our board members, our non-technical leaders about how to lead with data. And I talk about this in the book. Every company is a data company right now. We saw that. If there isn't a digital strategy or a data strategy, the companies that didn't have those aren't with us anymore. So this is how core and critical data is to our survival. And I just felt that we needed to streamline, cut through all the hype, and find a way to be leaders with our data because it's our most important asset.
And thank you for that, Dominique. And I want to double click on something you said. In the absence of having a strategy, you believe some companies are actually no longer around. I saw that in your book. Tell us a little bit about that, because I don't know if listeners, readers of your book, but listeners to our podcast really understands the connection between the two.
Let me give you just an example to kind of crystallize. So some companies felt like they're in the aviation business, for example. But then in M&A, it turns out that their loyalty program data was more valuable than the company itself. And that's what ended up having the value for purposes of M&A. Similarly, in terms of where the growth is, we've seen for many of our financial institutions that have business to consumer relationships, they're seeing things like 70% of the transactions are happening on digital apps and through virtual interactions. And that's why artificial intelligence is going to be so pivotal in terms of those communications. But the world is progressing onto our phones, and pretty soon it's going to be not phones, it'll be wearables and robotics. And so the sooner we strengthen the muscle of how do we manage and lead with not just data, but all the new technologies coming our way, and we develop a framework for that, right? The sooner we get to that, the better we're going to be for business, society, and just having control over the future.
How do you think we got here? Because as you mentioned, the loyalty program, I think I'm on like maybe 10. I freely give my information. I'm given reminders and prompts and consistently getting nudges. How did we get here when we don't recognize the importance of all that sensitive information?
Well, Lori, one of the things I think is that data, unlike a tangible asset, and it doesn't appear on a balance sheet every quarter. And so it's easy to lose sight and think, well, I'm in the airline business, or I'm in the retail, I'm selling clothes, and I'm, selling infrastructure. In fact, what you're really doing in every company is selling data and selling products that are going to be enhanced through really understanding data. And that's where our new technologies and emerging technologies like generative AI are going to be so critical. But the way to do that and how to build governance is part and parcel of using the technology. It's just critical so that you have, you're delighted by the data and not data bloopers.
How did you get here? Tell me a little bit about your experience. In my intro, I talked about your illustrious career and this particular book, Trust. But tell the listeners a little bit about your journey. How did this become a focus of your career trajectory?
Yeah. So, looking at it in the kind of rear view mirror, it's been 33 years that I've been practicing law now. Looking at it from the rear view mirror, it seems like it was all, I'm sure, Laura, you've experienced this, where it seems like everything fell into place. But in fact, it's sort of an interesting journey. So I went to undergrad at Brown University, international relations and French civilization majors. So nothing to do with technology. Graduated in 1988. I went to Georgetown Law Center because I was really interested in the international component of law. And so came out and again, nothing to do with the internet there, but one of my favorite courses was Privacy in American Law. And it was taught by Professor Anita Allen, a wonderful, I just read about her coming back from Oxford, African-American woman professor as a leader in privacy at Georgetown. And so it was just really great to take that course with her in my second year of law school. And then, fast forward, I came out of school in 91. Again, my practice was more involved in like defending companies against unfair competition claims, consumer protection claims, some IP. And then in 1998, I went to a firm that, a small boutique with about 70 attorneys. And a big part of the practice was representing tech companies, emerging tech companies like Yahoo and others in Silicon Valley. So I just stuck with that. And, the issues those companies had centered around privacy, ethical behavior, and so forth. So I just stuck with that. And here I am now.
So thank you for that. And you're right. It does sound as though without knowing it today, you were on this path. And you mentioned French. You studied French literature. This is a global concept. It feels, now I don't have any data, it feels as though the EU may be a little ahead of us. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, the EU has adopted their EU AI Act. And so they're going to be moving ahead sooner than the United States. We don't have a federal AI Act yet, but, we do have President Biden's executive order on AI. And we do have a number of regulators in the US coming out with guidance. The other thing is there are 100 countries in 6 continents with draft regulatory AI frameworks that are very similar to the EU. And it really comes down to consensus around 6 things that every CEO, every board member, every chief legal officer, every leader should know about harnessing the promise of AI and unlocking the innovation.
Well, it's great to know that there is an opportunity for consensus. And 6 is a number that I could remember. Let's go back to this amazing book because there's so much wisdom. You talk about post data. Now, you shared all the current relevant issues. How are we in a post data era?
So I feel that we're in a post data world because it's now, it used to be an anomaly, big data, digital transformation, learning insights about your business from data. Those were anomalies and new things maybe 20, 25 years ago. But right now, this is encrusted. That's table stakes for any company to excel. And so we're really talking about going beyond that and getting to a place of key governance, treating data and digital operations, including AI, robotics, everything, things that we don't even know, that haven't even been invented yet. If we get on a governance journey of intertwining data with just good business practices, enterprise opportunity and enterprise risk. And as I said, it really comes down to 6 steps to integrate those things into making the company amazing with their data leadership.
You've got an entire chapter dedicated to why data leadership is important now. So allow me to read just one thought. The concept is straightforward. Lack of responsible data privacy leadership leads to distrust with consumers and employees, which eventually translates into losses in market cap. Now, a leader could ask, how am I responsible for that? Tell me a little bit about the data leadership aspect.
So what that means is, just bluntly, Lori, is oversight. A leader needs to know where they're going in order to be able to exercise the right oversight and ensure that the organization is going in that place. So what I see too many times is that our CEO and board community have delegated the role of leadership to those that are responsible for the IT function. But right now, where data and digital operations are integrated to every key function of the company, it's imperative that our CEOs and our board members are adept at being able to set direction and intention. Something as simple as saying, we're committed to data privacy and we're committed to a secure environment for the data we're entrusted with. Just starting from that stance and then posing questions that will get to those outcomes. That's the role of the CEO. That's the role of the board.
Well, I appreciate that because in your book, you actually give us, I know you've mentioned your 4-step, but you call out 4 ways that a data strategy can enhance revenue. And can I say, B as in billions of dollars? Is it really that much of a revenue impact? Billions of dollars?
Billions. So, for example, we have one company that took the various streams of information they were getting for quality assurance, looking at social media, looking at how customers were talking about their product. This is a mobile device company. Looking at the features that customers were saying they wanted, integrating that into the next generation of the device, the phone that they issued. It was their most popular product because they took the quality assurance data and shared that with the product development team, and they were able to integrate those features and with a ready-made market because the consumers have been jumping onto social media to complain about things that they were missing. But again, connecting the dots, that's the type of thing that data can do. On the flip side, without governance, we have situations where things like data privacy can be overlooked or AI governance can be, missed. And suddenly you have the company appearing in the headlines for a data mishap, which is, had cost our global economy in 2022, $1.4 trillion in losses with a T. So we've got to get in front of this and really treat the data as the most important asset that it is.
I never considered it, but as I hear you describe it, it's the data, and you mentioned artificial intelligence and generative artificial intelligence. So I'm going to date myself. There was a cartoon called The Jetsons. And as I think back on that, it's almost as though we're in the Jetsons age. Why do you believe AI, the future is now? That's one of the things that you call out in your book. The future's now. Tell us a little bit about that.
So AI is already in the process. We haven't seen all of the pieces yet, but it is already in the process of transforming all of our lives, how we do business, how we create product, how we communicate with our customers, how we communicate with our business partners, how we are able to identify research and development in the life sciences. This is all happening at scale. Last year, in terms of licenses and investments in AI, we're talking about hundreds of millions of dollars that have gone into training models, creating applications, running pilot programs. And now we're just getting to the point where we're starting to shift into actual pilots being launched, 3-year enterprise licenses happening. So we're going to start seeing the results, a lot of this investment that was started last year. What's key in as part of this is ensuring that the AI that we develop is going in the direction that the CEO, the board, and your stakeholders would expect, meaning amazing outcomes. But we've seen a lot of headlines that seem to go in a different direction. And the good news is the legal frameworks have already thought about all this stuff, and there are ways to mitigate those risks and unlock the opportunity that are right before us.
I love the word you use, opportunity. As an HR practitioner, there's fear out there. We have different tools that help enable recruitment, performance management. My thinking is you won't lose your job to AI, but you may very well lose your job to someone that knows how to master the tools and the enablement of AI. What are your thoughts on that? Will we lose our jobs to machines?
A lot of the studies, I noticed IBM recently issued a report that they're anticipating that jobs will not be replaced, that what you do in the job might change. And there are certain jobs that are, continuous and repetitive, that don't have as much judgment. Those particular tasks will go away, but entire jobs, I think we're a ways off from that, if ever. So let's just talk about other times where technologies come into place. Mobile phones. That did not obviate the need to have, customer service, for example, or social media. What it did is it created a bunch of new additional, tens of thousands of people are in new jobs that were created by the technology. But for HR professionals in particular to understand, and not just HR, but everybody to understand that AI, generative AI, which is what is really new here. AI has been around for over 50 years, but the generative, training on the whole wide internet to provide a response, that is new. And the commercialization of that is new. And as long as everybody understands that the technology itself in that regard is still in its nascence. So AI is not infallible. We've seen situations where AI has been wrong on the facts, or just recently in January, we had a situation where an AI chatbot started cursing at the customers and criticizing the company. Another time where a chatbot in the life sciences recommended the wrong medication to people. So in other words, and certainly my own profession, frankly, there have been with lawyers situations where briefs have been filed to the court with cases that don't exist. So first, That comes from something that's very natural with AI. It's not an aberration. It's called model drift. It's being infused by the whole wide internet. We have, zettabytes and quintillion bytes of data coming into the internet per day that, 21 zeros behind it, zettabytes, 175 zettabytes of stored data. We're getting 2.5 quintillion bytes of fresh new data coming into our internet per day. When we're building applications on top of that dynamic environment, it's not a set it and forget it, Lori. It's constantly evolving. So when you hear about stories of AI being biased or giving the wrong information to people or IP issues, that's just that the governance isn't in place to continuously test, monitor, and audit the AI output to make sure that you have AI winning results, not AI bloopers coming out.
In closing, because you've given us a lot to think about, I think you introduced that model drift in one of the calls we were on together. I'd never heard of that because it does feel as though you set it and leave it, but I like your thinking that we have to stay intentional and mindful. Any closing comments? What are your closing big messages you'd like to leave with our listeners?
So my big message is if we do not move forward with technology, we're going to be left behind as a society. So in order to move forward with technology, we need to move forward safely. And that involves making sure humans are in the loop, that there's continuous testing, monitoring, and auditing of AI output for the foreseeable future. And then we look to our resources, like our legal frameworks, to get the governance ideas that we need to move forward successfully.
I love that. Thank you so much, Dominique, for spending time. I want every listener to pick up this wonderful book. There is so much wisdom and knowledge in trust. Thank you, Dominique.
Thank you so much, Lori, for having me.
Thanks for tuning into Working Forward. If you like what you hear, please share it with others and make sure you're following the show to not miss an episode. We are available anywhere you get your audio. See you next time.